Okay, Chairman, the stream is live.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday, April 5th, 2021 Village of Woodridge Plan Commission meeting via Zoom. I call this meeting to order. Our first order of business would be to call the roll. Our appointed secretary commissioner is not in attendance tonight, so we do have a temporary secretary for tonight's meeting. That'll be Commissioner Jim Durag. So, Mr. Secretary, if you wouldn't mind, please calling the roll for tonight's meeting.
Yep. Baylog. Cortez.
Here.
Gaspar. Handel Kanunen.
Here.
Girag. Here. Sealander. Here. And Prespiorka.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Next item is the approval of the minutes from the last Plan Commission meeting on March 15th, 2021. Do I hear a motion to approve it as is or make any changes?
This is Commissioner Cortez. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of March 15th.
This is Commissioner Handel Kanunen. I'll second that.
Okay, please call the roll.
Cortez.
Aye.
Handel Kanunen.
Aye.
Girag. Aye. Sealander. Aye. Prespiorka.
Aye. Okay, minutes are approved. Our first case tonight is applicant is CVS 8645 Woodward Avenue. This case was planned to have a public hearing and then a case consideration. However, there was an issue with the public notice by the applicant. And as such, we are not going to be able to consider this case tonight. So my recommendation would be that we would continue this, but I would need the commissioners to make a motion in that regard, and then we can vote on that. So we would continue this to our May 3rd Plan Commission meeting. So if all are in agreement, can I hear a motion to continue this case?
This is Commissioner Handel Kanunen. I'll make a motion that we continue this case to the May 3rd meeting of the Plan Commission.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cortez seconds.
Okay,
Right.
please call the roll.
Handel Kanunen.
Aye.
Cortez.
Aye.
Girag. Aye. Sealander. Aye. Prespiorka.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Right, staff, so that case will be continued to May 3rd. Please work with the applicants to get them prepared for that.
Will do. Thank you, Chairman.
Our next case is the consideration of a zoning map amendment and a site plan amendment and a special use permit for a drive-through facility at 7500 Lamont Road. The applicant is Bank of America and Nelson Architects. This case is also including a public hearing because of the nature of the case. So we'll enter that public hearing now. This agenda item is a public hearing of the Plan Commission convened for the purpose of considering a request for a zoning map amendment, rezoning, a site plan approval, and a special use permit for Bank of America located at 7500 Lamont Road. The applicant is Nelson Chicago, 30 West Monroe Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60603. The applicant is requesting rezoning from the B3 zoning district to the B2 zoning district, site plan approval, and a special use permit for a drive-through facility for a new Bank of America building. Notice of the public hearing on the matter to be considered was published in the Woodridge Bugle on March 17th, 2021. A copy of the certificate of publication shall be made part of this hearing record as Village Exhibit A. Let the record reflect that all other notices required by law have been given. So is staff ready to present their report?
I am, and Peggy, I'm ready to be sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, and I'd like to enter my report into the record as Exhibit B. Okay. Good evening, Commissioners, and as well, the applicant is here as well to make a short presentation after mine, and they're also on hand to answer any questions you may have. The case before you this evening, as noted, is for numerous actions, including a zoning map amendment, also known as a rezoning, a site plan approval for a new construction, and a special use permit for an accessory drive-through facility for a proposed new branch of a Bank of America bank for the property known as 7500 Lamont Road, which, as you can see from the location map, is at the corner of 75th Street and Lamont Road, adjacent to, but importantly not part of, the Woodgrove Festival Shopping Center. That you may recall, you recently heard two separate cases for a proposed new Starbucks just to the south of this evening's subject property. The proposal, as mentioned, is for a 4,377 approximate square foot branch of a Bank of America. The approvals require a rezoning. The property is currently zoned for a B3 zoning district, which is more of a kind of highway and auto use, highway and service business district classification, in which banks are not an allowable use, either as a permitted use or a special use. And as such, the applicant is seeking a rezoning to the B2 community shopping district, which would allow the bank as a permitted use and the associated proposed drive-through as a special use, which is also up for consideration this evening. I understand that we anticipated some questions this evening on the differences between those two zoning districts. So I did provide for the commissioners and for the public as part of this evening's packet an overview table detailing the differences in allowed uses between those two districts. And so if there are any questions on that later, I'm more than happy to answer those. As for the proposal itself, I did allude to this within the report, but the site plan that you see before you on the screen, there are some potential changes to that, which I will touch upon later when we get to the traffic and access portion of this evening's presentation. I do want to touch upon landscaping quickly. The applicant is proposing to meet or exceed the village code as it pertains to landscaping throughout the site, with the exception of the required perimeter landscaping, from which they are requesting relief on all sides of the building. On some sides of the building, they're requesting zero landscaping. On others, they're requesting a reduced amount. That is detailed in Exhibit J of staff's report, which does provide an overview of all the required or requested, I should say, relief this evening. On the topic of relief, one thing I did want to touch upon is the proposed refuge area that's kind of located over here in the southwest portion of the property. There is some relief being requested related to that accessory structure. I did want to touch upon that is a request from village staff. The original proposal as presented to the village did include a new garbage area that was to be fully screened and located within the buildable area of the lot. The village's engineer and the village's civil engineer requested that the current structure be maintained, as the location of that current structure provides less of an inconvenience as it pertains to utilities. And then on the topic of utilities, the village engineer and the village's civil engineer did work with the applicant in securing several easements from the other property owners here, which is why you will see these three trees over here on the landscaping plan are not actually a part of the subject property. They are a part of the neighboring property, the Jameson's Char House over here. The easement required, the village's engineer required an easement to be sought to increase the size of the water main to the property for better fire flow and better water flow. As such, there were 3 existing trees on the Jameson's property that would have to be removed in order to insert that water main. We did work with the applicant, and we did require a 1-for-1 replacement of similar trees, and they did agree to that, which is why you will note some landscaping being proposed off the subject property. Moving on, another piece of relief that is being requested as part of this evening's proposal is for signage. So as noted in staff's report on page 10 of your packets, the village's sign regulations permit the greater of 200 square feet or 5% of the surface area of the building side across a maximum of 2 facades. So that is a total square footage allowance that is then broken up between a maximum of 2 facades. The applicant is requesting relief to allow for a wall signage on the north, south, and east facades of the building. The proposed total amount of signage, the actual square footage number, does come in under village code requirements, but they are requesting to take that allowance and split it between 3 facades. As noted earlier, this Plan Commission and the Village Board did recently consider and approve a standalone Starbucks building just to the south of the subject property. That was approved with a similar level of relief. It was permitted with 3 facades of signage, as long as that total amount came in under the village code approved total square footage. Most importantly this evening, potentially, is I do want to touch upon access. And I do want to just clarify within that first sentence there on the access portion on the bottom of package page 10, it states that a right-in, right-out access drive along 75th Street and a right-in ingress-only access point on Lamont Road currently exist. The current Lamont Road access is right-in, right-out. As proposed and as is up for consideration this evening, if I go back to this site plan real quick, the applicant would maintain the right-in, right-out access along 75th Street and would have a right-in ingress only along Lamont Road. That is the proposal before you this evening. That would be the site plan being approved this evening. When the proposal was originally presented and reviewed by village staff, the proposal contained a right-in, right-out, basically maintaining the existing access to the site. The applicant, as part of this process, has to work with the DuPage County Division of Transportation, or DUDOT, and we require proof of those DUDOT permits before we can issue building permits. As part of that process, and the applicant is here again to kind of speak to that from their perspective a little bit more, DUDOT required that the right-in, right-out along Lamont Road was converted into a right-in only. That proposal was reviewed by the village staff, our village civil engineer, and the village's consulting engineer. And the village's team did not agree with that proposal and did not feel that that was suitable for this property. The reason that the access diagram I'm showing you on the screen right now is not included as part of your package is because this is not a document created by the applicant. This document was created by the village's consulting engineer, James J. Bennis and Associates, as part of a discussion with the DUDOT engineer as a way to make a right-in and right-out work along Lamont Road. All of this to say that there is a condition as proposed in tonight's action necessary that if this Plan Commission was to recommend approval to the village board, the condition would be that prior to that village board meeting, the applicant would need to work with DUDOT and work with village staff to propose and resubmit an access proposal that is markedly similar to what you see here, with proposed signage to navigate the flow of traffic. They would also be expected to tweak the landscape plan and regenerate their traffic study or trip generation memo to better reflect the changes to the access drive. The applicant is aware of this and is already working on that to the best of my knowledge, and will be ready to submit that to the village shortly. But yes, so again, this is more of kind of an internal document that staff felt it was important that the Plan Commissioner saw it, but understood that this is not what the applicant is proposing. This is the result of a negotiation between the village's team, including our consulting engineers, and DoDOT. As it relates to traffic, the applicant did submit a trip generation memo, which was considered to be sufficient and was agreed upon by James J. Bennison Associates. On the whole, this project would generate less traffic than the gas station that currently occupies the site. There is a Shell gas station with a convenience store and car wash currently on the site. And the trip generation memo, which was corroborated by our consulting engineer, found that on the whole, with the exception of certain peak time journeys, this use would represent a decrease in overall traffic to the site. With that being said, that does conclude staff's presentation. The applicant is here, and applicant's team, if you have a visual presentation, please let me know and I can hand you the screen sharing powers.
Good evening, everyone. I am Kent Liker, the Senior Project Manager for JLL and representing Bank of America. With me, I have Nate Groff, the lead for our civil engineering team, and Brandon Garnett, the lead for our architecture team.
Mr. Liker?
Yes.
Since this is a public hearing, all presenters will need to be sworn in. We could do that all at once with your team.
Sure.
Thank you.
Peggy, if you can just hold for 1 second. The applicant, the future developer of this property, is also here. They are in the public room. I will invite them in real quick just in case they decide they want to speak later on. It makes more sense to have them sworn in now. So give me 1 second. Dan and Joe, can you hear me?
Dan, I can hear you.
Great. Okay, Dan. And Peggy, baby, if you can go ahead and swear them all in.
Okay. If you can all raise your right hand, do you all swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
I do.
Thank you.
And then Peggy, would it be helpful for you if they kind of go one by one and state their names and respective firms, or do you need that?
It might be beneficial for for me and the public.
Okay, my name is Kent Likers, project manager with JLL.
I am Brandon Garnett, architecture firm Delson Architects out of Chicago.
And I'm Nate Groff with Kimley Horn, civil engineer for the project.
And then Dan, if we can get you as well, just while you're on the call.
Oh, sure. Dan Wander with Terrica. I'm the developer.
Okay, that should be
Thank you,
everybody,
everyone.
right, Peg?
Okay, Mr. Liker, you were going to present first?
I believe Brandon is going to share his screen to go through the plan.
Okay, Brendan, you should have that power now.
Okay, let me see here. Okay, I'm pulling it up. Share screen. There we are. You should be able to see my screen, folks.
Affirmative.
Perfect. Would you like to segue in, Kent, or?
Sure. So what we're proposing is a new bank facility on the corner of 75th and Lamont roads, and we're also presenting the drive-through ATM the facility. The the structure itself will be slightly more than 4,300 square feet. And Philip was in pretty succinct detail on the overall plan. But the general package comes with signage and a new just a new tenant to bring some new business to the strip mall and all of the neighboring tenants and facilities. That is the overall goal of what we're trying to achieve here. And yeah, I'll be definitely available to answer any questions on behalf of the client that come up to the best of my ability.
And if I may add to that, so in these proposed structures, this is actually a newer Bank of America prototype. We've only been instituting this building design for, I would say 5 or 6 months. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kent.
That is correct.
It's a very, very new iteration. In addition to this, what the services that this location will provide to customers will be 2 drive-through ATMs. There will be a interior ATMs as well as 6 offices and teller presence as well. So if anybody has any needs to access in person, any teller assistance inside, they have that ability, as well as it'll have full security and proper lighting as well. So in regards to bank services, there's no additional bank services that would be provided here. Really, the only additional item would be the fact that it is a newer prototype, so to speak, for Bank of America. And happy to assist with any questions or concerns that the commissioners may have. Thank you very much.
I do have two quick things to add to that. Due to the new restrictions, provided by COVID-19, we've actually split the 2 lobby ATMs to one in the lobby and one into the 24-hour vestibule. So it's kind of partitioned them a little bit to help with distancing and such. And in light of Philip's iteration of the reduced vegetation around the building, the immediate vicinity of the building is security reasons on behalf of the bank. They don't like a lot of foliage around windows and cameras and things like that. So that would be the reasoning behind that we wanted the reduced landscaping features adjacent to the exterior walls of the building.
Correct. They it's all a matter of clear line of sight. Clear line of sight for security within a 50-foot radius of the ATMs, as well as building entrances. All shrubbery they want to maintain below 3 feet. All tree limbs cut up to 6 feet, so everybody has that clear line of sight for their own personal security when they're exiting the facility and or accessing the drive-through ATMs after hours. So good point. Thank you very much, Ken.
And I'll just add to that. Phil did a great job of explaining the project. I just wanted to mention our trip generation analysis that we did run for the vehicular trips in and out reduces by more than 50% going from the existing gas station to the proposed bank facility. So that's something that we will update based on the access changes that Phil alluded to that we're working with the village and DUDOT. But the trip generation itself is half of what's there in the existing conditions with the gas station and car wash. I think that's it for our team, unless there's any questions.
All right. So that concludes the applicant's presentation.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, before we do questions for the commissioners, at this time, we'll now give members of our virtual public the opportunity to speak via Zoom. And we'll read any questions or comments that were emailed to our email address, which is commentpc@woodridgeil.gov. So upon receipt, staff will read in your questions or comments into the official record, and the applicant, applicant's witnesses, and the village staff will respond as needed. So staff, do we have anybody that has indicated they want to make a comment or question on this case?
Chairman, we do have one member of the public in the waiting room. I do believe, based on their registration, that they may be here for the other public hearing that's on our agenda for this evening, but assuming it's okay with yourself, I would invite them to talk and just make sure that's accurate and make sure they have no comments on this case.
Okay.
Okay. Nikhil Mehta, you are available to speak now. Did you have any comments on this Bank of America case?
Yes, hi. This is actually for the other case, my comments.
Okay, great. Thank you
Bill.
so much. Just wanted to double check.
No problem. Thank you.
We'll catch up with you on that case.
Okay, thank you. So any questions from the commissioners for the applicants during the public hearing? Okay, I just have one question. Commissioner Sealander, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Okay.
Couldn't find the mute button. So I assume the property is owned different than the mall, correct?
Correct. The property is currently under the ownership of True North, who currently owns and operates the Shell gas station on the property.
That's why
the mall behind it. I'm sorry, Commissioner, go ahead.
That's why they're not going to share any of the egress, ingress, driveways.
Correct. As the property is currently designed, there is no through access to the rest of the mall, especially in that area. Just for context, and you can see on Exhibit G of staff's report, for the water main access easement, the applicant actually had to negotiate with 3 different landowners. Coles owns a piece of that property there. NER owns the piece that the Starbucks was recently approved from. Jameson's owns their own property. So there's a lot of ownership kind of in that corner right there.
Because if somehow they could use that rear driveway, we could save a lot of congestion problems. These are odd questions, but is it hard to build a gas station today? And we lose this zone for gas station. Will we never get another gas station in Woodridge again, or is it pretty easy to get another gas station?
Obviously, if we to answer your question, I think there's 2 answers to that question from staff's perspective. Will we ever get another gas station on this property? It would need to be rezoned again. It would need to be rezoned back to the B3 because a gas station would no longer be permitted on that property if, and applicant's team, I apologize, but I have to answer this way. If that Bank of America was to go out of business for whatever reason or leave the village, any potential gas station who would like to move back to that property would need to once again seek a rezoning to answer that piece of the question. Elsewhere in the village, is there interest in gas stations? Obviously, the village recently approved the 7-Eleven over on 75th Street. But it really is just, as always, a question of supply and demand.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't necessarily mean this location. Is it hard? The question, the thought in my mind is, oh wow, EPA, impossible to get them to let you build another gas station. Is that true or false?
That is false.
Okay, good. Okay, I
The
just
question
want
is, will a location in the village be available that makes sense for a developer is the question. The village of Woodridge is practically built out. And so as long as
something down probably.
or for the vacant parcels that are available, it's obviously about the ease of the process. And if a developer feels that with the parcels that are remaining, if they feel that it's worth their while and their time and their money to go forth through our community's respective process, they can to seek out locations for a gas station. But it's going to be purely based on the developer and how our process moves to allow them to move forward with a gas station. It's only as good as everybody, all the players that are in charge, so to speak.
Yeah. The only other thing is obviously just in terms of, Director Porter's comment about our process, the village is getting very built out. So available land is increasingly hard to come by.
Right. We just lost the gas station from Sam's. This will be another one, so it's a dual fold. one, keeping the price of gas reasonable for our citizens, and second, the revenue that comes into the village for that purpose. So
Yeah.
it's a little worrisome. I know we're doing, we oftentimes give relief for the what do you call it, the sidewalk, the foundation, and we're doing it again. I just put in a note, we're doing this comprehensive change for our zoning. I hope we have that in that, because it's almost like every case that comes in front of us, there's some amount of relief we're giving. And I know we have, like this one, for security purposes, they need it. And so that's okay. But at some point, the citizens go, wait a minute, do we never follow the rules? So let's make sure we address that in that.
The comprehensive zoning code is going to be looked at, and the consultant that is ultimately selected will look at landscaping and how we can accommodate. Every community is different. That's why relief is built into every zoning code in America, to allow that level of relief, because every lot is different, every project is different. So I know that this commission has been wanting some changes to the landscape chapter of our zoning code, and you're finally getting it with the overhaul of our upcoming zoning code update.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's hard. You're right. It's hard to catch everything. But if we said 3 out of 4 sides have to have it or something like that, we might avoid having to do relief all the time. So that's all I got.
Yeah, and to that point, one of the first parts of any process related to a zoning code update is that the consultant and village staff will review previous plan commission cases and really pick out those themes of what kind of relief is being constantly asked for and granted. So even if it's something that isn't maybe top of our minds, we'll look back and review those trends and bring them forward.
One last thing I thought of, is the Sam's lot still zoned that it could be a gas station?
The zoning has not changed as of yet.
So when you're marketing what's available in Woodridge, are you marketing that there is a plot of land could be a gas station?
The village doesn't market. We don't market lands. When the ownership is allowed to provide the village staff with information, with their marketing information. Okay. And so Sam still owns that particular lot, Sam's/Walmart. And they have not advertised that lot for anything as of yet. Okay. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. Phil, I do have one question regarding the site plan, and
yes, sir.
Mr. Garnett had on his one presentation slide, I thought showed it clearly. It looks like there's 3 lanes on the drive-through. Is the lane furthest to the west, is that a through lane, or is that also?
It is. They can. That is. We had this conversation with them at the beginning. That is, and I want to say escape lane, but that isn't the term. But you know my point. If I was to pull up to the drive-through ATM and realize that it's too busy and I don't want to do it, bypass lane. Thank you. I had my second COVID shot today, so I'm not all upstairs right now. I'm mostly here. You've got most of me. Don't worry about it.
You're doing fine.
But yeah, it is a bypass lane.
Okay.
It is a bypass lane.
All right. That helped.
No, my cab's
around there. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And then the second question I had.
And we did. Sorry, Chairman. Just to follow up on that one real quick. We did have them provide a stacking plan that shows they do meet the required 10 spaces of stacking between the 2 lanes.
Okay. And then I have a question that's probably more for Bank of America. So, Kent, is that something that you would tackle if I had a question for relative to the bank's intentions?
Certainly.
So I noticed that they have several locations currently, within a 10-mile, 15-mile radius of this location that are temporarily closed. I'm assuming that's due probably to, the impact of COVID, but also potentially through the impact of online banking. So why this location at this point in time?
I think I can summarize that by saying they tend to want to change their market imprint from time to time. It's actually kind of a constant in and out sort of thing. There's only X amount of space they can occupy federally, and if they're more or less oversaturated in certain areas, they will close down certain locations to open ones in a less saturated in a new market per se. So the closed locations you're speaking of could either be one of two things. One is that they're just temporarily closed, and the other could be is they plan on closing indefinitely for the redevelopment of this more modern, more technologically advanced, more consumer friendly location. To draw, because all of the locations will track where their people are coming from, where more or less where they're generating business from. So that's kind of why they would, their market research would suggest maybe this location is better, and we can kind of shut down this one, and this will service both of those locations. I can't speak directly to what their plan is for this between 10 and 15 mile area, but probably 9 times out of 10 one of those two things is it.
So for instance, there's a Bank of America building on Boughton and 355 in a plaza that I don't think is more than 20 years old, but it's closed or temporarily closed at this point. So what's, and I know we can't predict the future, but, given that, is there strategy to chase markets, so to speak? Are we looking at potentially this being a closed location in 20 years?
Not likely. And Dan can back me up on this one. The lease is structured so that we're there for minimum 15 with multiple options to renew following that. But generally they're there long term. They usually don't they don't anticipate short-term leases on any of their projects.
Okay.
Could possibly
All right.
add, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to add, I am being engaged for other locations that have been temporarily shut down for COVID, and they're starting to reopen. In regards to which locations, I'm not really sure, but we are starting to, at least on the architectural side, get engaged to start reopening locations because they were temporarily shut down for COVID. Actually, one's just near me here in Tinley Park as well. And so that could also be some of the case as well. And I have a handful of locations that we're assisting them with reopening right now.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, those are normally in the those are normally in the hands of our renovation team. A lot of those locations that are temporarily shut down because of COVID are getting an interior facelift in the meantime, kind of taking advantage of that closed status to improve upon the interiors, upgrade the ATMs, et cetera.
I have one last question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Commissioner Sealander. This is, I don't think I've ever been to a drive-through that the bank was on my right. So have you done that a lot, and does the flow work fine? I mean, it shouldn't be a problem, but it just seems like it's going to be strange.
This is, and Nate can probably speak better than I can about this one, but it just depends on the site plan. We've had, I've got an example of another project that we changed the site plan 3 different times. But while working with the city, this one's City of Cleveland specifically, but yeah, we changed it 3 times just to, playing what's the best for it, and, where it's situated, and, what kind of traffic we're dealing with. So it varies from location to location, but all iterations of it have been done.
But people driving through don't get confused or anything?
No, the wayfinding signs usually deal with that. We have both the signs entering, the paint on the asphalt. So that usually doesn't confuse anyone. They're, especially when it's brand new, freshly painted. It'll be that way for a long time when it first opens, and people kind of get used to that's how this location works. So the initial wayfinding navigation signs usually take care of that.
Thank you.
All right, do the applicants desire to make a brief summation before we close the public hearing?
I can go a little bit further just to say, the bank is extremely excited about this particular project, and they're definitely looking forward to working with Woodridge. So yeah, that much I know. They haven't backed down one bit. There's been quite a few hurdles, and they're still moving forward with great anticipation.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the Plan Commission will be considering its recommendation for this case at its regular meeting this evening. That is not a public hearing, and no statements or testimony will be permitted. At this time, I'd like to ask the Plan Commission for a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing. John Sealander.
Thank you.
Cortez seconds.
Thank you.
Cortez,
Aye.
Handel Noonan,
Aye.
Sealander,
Aye.
Chirag, aye, and Presbyarka.
Aye. Okay, now we're in our regular Plan Commission discussion for this case. Are there any other questions of staff relative to the details of the case or any kind of the actions necessary? If not, Phil, if you wouldn't mind just reviewing the actions that are necessary.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, you can find the actions necessary on the latter half of page 11 of your packet, moving on to the beginning of page 12. There'll be a total of 2 motions required this evening. The first motion would be to adopt the findings of fact for the proposed special use accessory drive-through, and that is contained in Exhibit C, which is, I apologize, that's Exhibit B, which is on page 14 of your packet. And then the second would be to make your recommendation to the Mayor and Board of Trustees, either of approval or denial of the approvals being sought this evening. And that would be subject to plans 1 through 7, and then the conditions 1 through 3 as modified by the Commission.
Thank you, Phil. So we need a motion first to adopt the findings of fact.
This is Commissioner Cortez. I make a motion to adopt the findings of fact for a special use as contained in Exhibit B with no modifications.
Thank you. Needs a second?
This is Handel Noonan. I'll second.
Thank you.
Right. Cortez,
Aye.
Handel Noonan,
Aye.
Chirag, aye, Sealander, and Presbyarka.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, then the next action necessary is a recommendation to the mayor and board.
This is Commissioner Handel Noonan. I'll make a recommendation to the mayor and the Board of Trustees. Approval of a zoning map amendment, site plan approval, and special use permit for a drive-through facility for Bank of America at 7500 Lamont Road, subject to the plans 1 through 7 on pages 11 and 12 on staff's report, and the conditions 1, 2, and 3 that are listed on page 12 of staff's report.
Thank you. Needs a second?
Commissioner Cortez seconds.
Cortez,
Aye.
Handel Noonan,
Aye.
Chirag, aye, Sealander,
Aye.
and Presbyarka.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. So we're recommending to the mayor and the board approval of this project. So good luck to the applicants as you move forward.
Okay, applicants.
Thank
team,
you very
that would,
much.
That would be
Thank
you
you.
guys done. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next case on the agenda tonight is consideration of a major amendment to a final planned unit development plan and plat of the Woodridge Town Center at Plaza Drive. This is also a public hearing, and I believe the applicant is also the Village of Woodridge. So Phil, I was gonna ask you if our next applicants are here, but I guess they are.
I'll take a look.
Look around. So we'll first enter into the public hearing. This agenda item is a public hearing of the Plan Commission convened for the purpose of considering a request for a major amendment to a planned unit development for the Town Center campus located at Plaza Drive. The applicant is the Village of Woodridge, 5 Plaza Drive, Woodridge, Illinois, 60517. The applicant is requesting a major amendment to a planned unit development for the Town Center campus located at Plaza Drive to permit the construction of an expansion to the existing parking lot per an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Woodridge, School District 68, Woodridge Park District, and Woodridge Public Library. Notice of the public hearing on the matter to be considered was published in the Woodridge Bugle on March 17th, 2021. A copy of their certificate of publication shall be made a part of this hearing record as Village Exhibit A. Let the record reflect that all other notices required by law have been given. And is staff as applicant ready to present the report and explain the approval being sought?
I will be in about 15 seconds. My second screen that has my report on it just decided to crash on me at that exact moment. So stand by.
Do you have a printed copy?
This is the 1 week that I said to Lisa, you know what, let's save paper and I'll just use my screen because that's what I always use anyway.
I do have a copy if necessary, if you don't want me to read it.
Okay.
And then,
you know what, I'm just gonna...
Peggy, would you mind please swearing in the applicants as well?
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do. Okay, we're going to go into backup mode here and pull it up in a slightly different fashion. So we'll be a little bit slower switching between slides, but I will have the necessary information on the screen here. And I will be ready to present here. And I would like to include this presentation as Exhibit B for this public hearing, please. The project before you this evening is for the property located at Plaza Drive, which is the town center campus. That includes a number of public service uses, including the Village Hall located at 5 Plaza Drive, the library, which is located at 3 Plaza Drive, the Woodridge branch of the United States Postal Service post office, and then a combined police department and public works facility, which is located at 1 Plaza Drive. The subject property, as denoted on the map before you, shows the overall town center campus, but if I can just zoom in here, the explicit area that we'll be discussing this evening is, if you can see my pointer there, this kind of grassy area located here in the southwest corner of the property. If, for reference, this here is Village Hall, library building here, police and public works facility over here. So it's this area located in that southwest property that we will be discussing this evening. As for the proposal itself, commissioners, you may recall a case, I believe back in 2019 was the hearing for the proposed track and field and sports facilities for Jefferson Junior High, which is located to the rear of the property. There were numerous concerns raised by commissioners and village board members during that approval process as it relates to the potential impacts of parking that development may have on the area. The village, the school district, the library, and the park district had, to the best of my knowledge, already been having discussions as it related to expanding some parking at town center to be able to accommodate future needs. Also recently approved was the Sled Hill, which is also there on Plaza Drive. And so in 2018, the village board had approved a resolution that created a letter of intent, which set forth the general path that these approvals and this parking expansion would take. That was then converted into a full intergovernmental agreement that established cost-sharing measures, as well as the library's agreement as a portion of this land is owned by the library to utilize that, and how maintenance moving forward would be handled. So that brings us to today. The village's role as part of that was the village agreed to take the lead on the project, so to speak, in terms of commissioning the actual design of the expanded parking lot and in terms of gathering the necessary approvals. And in the interest of complete transparency and honesty, when those designs were originally created, village staff began work on understanding the approval process that would be required. The whole town center development is a planned unit development. And within the village code, there are certain triggers for what would be a minor amendment, which is processed administratively on staff's level before receiving ultimate approval by the village board. And then there is a major amendment, which is the process before you this evening that contains a public hearing and requires a plan commission recommendation followed by village board approval. A lot of the times the differences in what that process is going to look like depends on a percentage of land. So it could be a percentage of open space being reduced. It could be a percentage of a height increase of a building, for example. During the initial research that staff undertook, we noted that the originally approved plans were not filed appropriately and were not available for our review. As such, and after consultation with the village attorney and generally a discussion of what best practice would be internally as staff, we felt that the most appropriate thing to do would be to hold ourselves to the highest standard possible and assume that this would be a major amendment, because we had no way of proving that it could be legally operated as a minor amendment. As such, we are bringing that before you this evening as a major amendment and requesting plan commission consideration followed by village board consideration of the proposed parking lot expansion. The actual expansion itself is for 32 spaces. You will note that the count there is of 30 spaces. That is of standard size spaces. There are 2 additional slightly oversized spaces on either end of that rear row. As mentioned, that is over there at the southwest corner of the property. It also includes some overall improvements in general traffic flow for the area. So, for example, the library will be relocating the book drop-off to the rear of the property instead of to the traffic circle, which is over there in front of Village Hall. And there'll be a continued sidewalk there that takes us to the new sled hill at the rear of the property, to the library there as well. In terms of landscaping, this is somewhat unique. The village is meeting all of our required landscaping codes. There is one deviation or relief from the code that is being requested, and that is for a center island. Typically, the village code requires center island to be placed 1 every 4 spaces when there's more than 20 spaces within a development. Our village's public works team is requesting relief from that requirement for the reason that the village actually does all of its snow removal to the rear of the property. So during snow events, the plows will push all the snow to that area of the parking lot, and those islands would risk damage if one was placed on that rear row. So that frees up that space to continue that snow removal operation, as has always been the case in that area. That does require the removal of 1 honey locust tree. The village is proposing 5 replacement trees, which exceeds code requirements. One thing we have noted is that the intergovernmental agreement and those letter of intents do provide for certain timescales that the village would agree on our part to seek these approvals within, and that really has numerous reasons. The price of the asphalt itself, the preparation for the season at the track and field and the sled hill. The sled hill was approved and constructed last year, but intends to be built this year after having that one season break to allow the grass to grow in. Staff was able to present a landscape plan that was originally approved in 1996 and has worked internally to update that landscape plan to be able to bring that forward to the commission and the board. We are recommending that as a condition of our own approvals, what we would seek to do is during the summer, we would actually have a landscaping company come out and reconfirm that 1996 landscape plan and provide a plan that accurately reflects the conditions on the site now and accurately ensures that we are meeting or exceeding our village code. Although by code that should only be processed as a minor amendment, staff is proposing that we would bring that back to the Plan Commission. That is something that's in Director Porter's power to refer minor amendments to the commission and board. We would propose it as a condition. We would do that. We would bring that landscape plan back before this commission and board for your approval and the board's approval once we're able to get that accurately drawn up during the summer. Again, the only reason that isn't available for you as part of this approval is because we do have certain timelines we need to meet our obligations to the Park District, library, and school district.
As well as
that being said, as well as the weather. We did look into this as part of our current approvals, but there was just no accurate way to ensure that landscape plan would be representative of what is on the ground right now. So we felt it was appropriate to present to you what was planned and approved for the site with those modifications, but then submit to that condition that we would run it by you again in the summer once that's approved and accurate for your approval. So that being said, unless Director Porter has anything to add, that would conclude my presentation as both staff and the applicant, and I would have no other summation to make. Chairman, you are muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. At this time, we'll now give members of our virtual public the opportunity to speak via Zoom. And we'll read any questions or comments that were emailed to email address commentpc@woodridgeil.gov. If we have received any of those, staff would read those into the official record and respond as needed. So Phil, I believe we did have one member of the public that wanted to either ask questions or make a comment on this case.
Nikhil, I am going to invite you into the room now to provide your questions or comment. And Chairman, just for the record, while Nikhil enters the room, we have received no written testimony at this time.
Okay. And if the speaker would also please be sworn in, since this is a public hearing, before they begin. Peggy, if you wouldn't mind.
Do we have the speaker on?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Nikhil Mehta.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. So yeah, we live, my only question, my only concern, and I think it was addressed during your presentation with the photographs. Our only question is we live in the neighborhood directly north of the village. It's just past the new fields there.
Mm-hmm.
And with the last project, the forest got cut back. Yeah, so just north of that field.
Sure.
Or I'm sorry, just south.
Just
Yep.
south there.
Just
Yep.
south.
Kind of
And
behind
the
the school.
forest, yeah, behind the school there. And the forest got cut back a little bit, but it looks like based on this photograph that's not going to be a concern because it stops just north of the field. Our only concern was that forest just there's some woods just south of the field that has become kind of a nice habitat for wildlife. There's some deer, some owls and such. And we just want to make sure that nothing further would be cut back, and it doesn't look like it.
Sure. Yeah, no, just for complete transparency and for your reference, the project ends before this tree line right here. The one proposed tree removal is actually kind of covered up by this wording right here. It's to make some changes to this sidewalk area. There's a tree kind of right underneath the J there, underneath that sidewalk area. That is being changed to meet the new traffic flow pattern for the library's book drop. So that tree is being removed and replaced by 5 others in the area. There's to be no changes to this tree line or anything beyond that.
Got it. Thank you. I think that answers it.
Excellent. Did you have anything else for us?
No, I think that's it.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta.
Thank you.
Any questions from the commissions?
I have a question. This is Commissioner Hennel Kanunin. So somebody that's parking there, it would not just be to go to the library or village hall. If they wanted to go to the sled hill, they would park there and walk over?
Yeah, so the sled hill is kind of just here, just kind of off this property boundary. You can see on this aerial photograph, that is the temporary access road. That's gone now, but that temporary access road was created for the construction of the sledge hill. The intent and the wording of the intergovernmental agreement is that there is to be no restrictions placed upon the parking lot. So the intent would be that this whole kind of parking lot area would be freely usable and flexible for if there were to, for example, once in-person restrictions are able to be listed, if there was an event at the library, these extra spaces would be available. If during the winter season, folks were to come along and want to use the sled hill, these spaces would be available. If there were to be a soccer game at the school, these spaces would be available. And as part of those initial conversations related to the track and field, I do know that there was an intention established, and Director Porter, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was an intention established that the park district and school district who jointly operate that track and field facility would be mindful of avoiding overlaps with heavily trafficked library uses. So yes, the intent would be whatever.
Yes, that is correct. And so the major intent of this parking lot expansion is for, again, patronage of the Sled Hill, Village Hall, library, that sort of thing. And the expectation of the school district of their new track and field is to be able to park that site, meaning to contain their participants for track and field on their respective property as much as possible.
Yeah, so it would be available and there would be no signage, there would be no monitoring to ensure that wasn't the case. It is intended to be accessible as a municipal parking lot. But yes, to Director's point, there was a lot of conversation around ensuring that adequate parking is provided on site at the school wherever possible.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have. So I'm drawing a blank on the sledding hill. I know it was discussed. I don't know. Maybe it was before I was on the board or what. They have no parking requirements in that. This is it.
Right. The actual sled hill itself did not require any amendments to the planned unit development. Staff undertook a review of the documentation. We have documentation surrounding the planned unit development of town center. What we don't have are the drawings or the plans. But after a thorough review of that documentation, the sled hill itself was a permitted use that went straight to building permit and required no amendments to the planned unit development. And as a recreation use, the parking was considered sufficient on the overall municipal campus.
Okay. And okay. Looks fine. I remember us talking about the parking lot and the expansion requirements, and I thought there were going to be funds associated with from the school district to pay for it. Is that how?
Yeah, there is a cost share element included within the IGA that was previously approved by the board. I couldn't give you the exact dollar figure. That is publicly available on our website. That IGA is published with the board minutes of that meeting, with the date of which should be referenced within staff report. But there is a cost share element associated between the Park District School District and the village for the actual construction of the spaces. And then the library's cost share element comes in play with the maintenance thereafter.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Bill, I have a question about the topography there in that corner.
Sure.
The school property, I know, is at a slightly higher elevation than the town center property. That last row of the parking south of the library, I know there's a couple of steps that go up there. So what is the elevation level of the new parking area and the fields then to the south? For instance, that sidewalk there to the right of the new parking area, is that a slope? Is there stairs there? My question goes to, is this ADA compliant?
Sure. Let me see if I actually have that information to hand. I do. Give me one moment just to change my share.
I'm looking at Google right now, and it's pretty level.
Yeah, there is a slope. There are not going to be steps because the intent will not be to provide direct access from these spaces. So can you see that? Did I change that screen correctly? It looks like I did on my screen. Okay, great. So this is the proposed grading plan. Oh, there we go. This has been reviewed and approved by our civil engineer. So you can see that this is kind of where it does slope is that tree line right there, but the accessibility would come from the sidewalk, which, even though there's going to be a cut to it right there, is being maintained. So that would be really the proposed accessibility to the sled hill. There would not be an intent to have folks cut through the tree line right there.
So if somebody wanted to park here and go to a track and field event and had a wheelchair, they'd be able to make it up that slope?
To my understanding, I don't think they actually have access to the track and field from this area. Not a direct access, and that's intentional by design.
Exactly.
Okay.
As stated.
This is just for the sled hill.
Right. The
right.
district, I'm sorry, go ahead, Phil.
I was just going to say, and Kim, you're probably about to say the exact same thing. I think when we discuss this parking being used for track and field, I think we're being realistic. But that definitely isn't the aim or aspiration. I think it's important to note it because I think we all understand how folks' minds work, and that's going to happen. But this is not designed for that use. This is designed knowing that will be a use, but really the intent here is to provide extra parking for library events and for the sled hill. You know, kind of, Chairman, to your point, I think really the idea would be to flip it. So rather than saying we are providing extra parking for the track and field, I think what we're doing is providing extra parking for library events on the understanding that potentially some of their spaces may be used by folks accessing the track and field.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay,
But
thank
the
you.
intent is that any track and field should be parking at the school. School District 68 has assured us that they have enough parking for their events. And so that's what we're hoping.
And down the road, when the new police station and public works facility is constructed on Janes, what is the intent for the current police building and public works building?
The police department is phase 1. The public works facility will still remain. The village has not made any public decisions as of yet as it relates to what the future of the remaining pieces of the town center will be.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the commissioners? Okay. If not, then the Plan Commission will be considering its recommendation at its regular meeting this evening. That is not a public hearing and no statements or testimony will be permitted. This time, I'd like to ask the Plan Commission for a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Commissioner Cortez. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Zealander, second.
Thank you.
Cortez,
Aye.
Handel Canonin,
Aye.
Chirag, aye. Sealander,
Aye.
Presbyterica.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, now we'll enter into any additional Plan Commission discussion necessary for this case. Any final questions or comments? If not, staff, if you could please review the actions necessary for this case.
Absolutely. Commissioners, you can find the actions necessary for this case on page 67 of your packet. There would be, again, a total of 2 motions required. The first one would be to adopt the findings of fact for a planned unit development. I'm going to double check myself this time. They are contained in Exhibit B and as modified by the Plan Commission if they so choose. The second motion would again be to make a recommendation to the Mayor and Board of Trustees, whether that be approval or denial of the requested major amendment, subject to plans 1 through 3, and the aforementioned condition number 1, again, as subject to modification by the Plan Commission.
Okay, any motions to adopt the findings of fact or make any changes?
I make a motion to adopt the findings of fact for planned unit development as contained in Exhibit B with no modifications.
Commissioner Cortez seconds.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Sealander,
Aye.
Cortez,
Aye.
Handel Canonin,
Aye.
Chirag, aye. Presbyterica.
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Okay.
Next action necessary is a recommendation to the Mayor and Board of Trustees.
This is Commissioner Handel Canonin. I'll recommend to the Mayor and Board of Trustees approval of a major amendment to a final plan unit development plan and plat for the Woodridge Town Center Plaza Drive, subject to the following plans, 1, 2, and 3 on page 67 of the staff's report, and subject to condition 1 on page 67 of staff report.
Thank you. Needs a second.
Commissioner Cortez seconds.
Handel Canonin,
Aye.
Cortez,
Aye.
Chirag, aye. Sealander,
Aye.
Presbyterica.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. As I do with all cases, good luck to the applicants.
Appreciate it.
Balance of your case. Okay, that concludes our cases for tonight. Our next item on the agenda is any public comments for any items not related to the agenda. So Phil, do we have any additional public interested in making a comment or question?
We have not received anything, no.
Okay. Then are there any discussion items between staff and the commission? Okay, are there any updates of previous Plan Commission cases?
Yes, at the March 18th Village Board meeting, there was the case consideration for the amendment to the Starbucks PUD as well as their special use permit for a drive-through to allow 5 menu boards when the village code only allows 3. The village board did consider that case and they did approve it.
Okay.
And that will conclude my update.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like the meeting on the 19th has been canceled, or is that still up in the air?
I don't believe we have anything.
Yeah, but we'll have Lisa confirm that.
Okay,
We'll reach out to everyone.
thank you. All right, if there's no other comments or discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Cortez makes a motion to adjourn.
Second it, Sealander.
Cortez,
Aye.
Sealander,
Aye.
Handel Canonin,
Aye.
Chirag, aye. Presbyarka.
Aye.
Motion carried.